How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to TheBlueShifting, and welcome back to Higurashi When They Cry. Also, change of perspective, I'm going to be messing with the cameras a little bit and kind of trying to develop things as we go, but I've got a standing desk now. I think that the standing is going to add more to the content. I think it'll just give me more range, it lets me move more, and encourages me to be more boisterous, more, expressive. And I'm ultimately very excited about it. It's also just nice because, I'll be starting a new job soon, and I get to do a good chunk of it working from home. So I got myself a good, office, So I see it as an investment not only in my career, but also in my, casual enjoyment. So here we are. Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to be able to share this with you. And also kind of excited to be continuing Higurashi. This is coming out when I am currently out of town. So this week is going to be a bit more void of content. For one thing, we just ended Putrika on Wednesday, and normally I'd be doing a live stream this week, but since I'm out of town, I won't be able to do that. It has to be pushed to next week. So that means we have this video coming out on Monday, and then ideally we'll have Trails and Chaos Child coming out later this week, but it means we'll have a 2-day gap. Unfortunately, it's just the way the timing worked out. I was kind of hoping that Putrika would be finished before, and I could be doing the rap party like the week before, but, that's just how it is. So hopefully you all don't mind, but it won't affect the Higurashi series. It shouldn't, at least. From what I can tell, I'll be back in time to record the following week's Higurashi episode. So the fact that I'm recording this now means that we are basically good, and this series won't see an interruption. So that's good news on all fronts, right? Assuming nothing critical happens. But I'm not going to anticipate, a house exploding or something. I can't really do much about that if that happens, so I'm not going to worry about that. Anyway, we're jumping back in. We had a really interesting episode. I think I can kind of see why this chapter is a bit polarizing now, because even last chapter, it takes Shion as a character and it polarizes her a lot. But I also feel like it's actually a good thing, because what happens in there is that we see a lot more of her humanity. She sells herself, kind of like Mion, as this conniving manipulator who understands the minutia of everything that's going on, knows how to manipulate and get things that she wants and makes things happen, and all according to her master plan, right? She comes across as very clever, and she is very clever, but she's also human. And so when she has this vulnerability in her heart, which is falling for Satoshi and being in love, like most of us, it makes her kind of turn into a little bit of a psychopathic, crazy person, at least in a sense of she loses control and her actions start to be dictated by her desire to just be with Satoshi. So she starts spending time around the baseball team, something she never would have been interested in if it wasn't for him. But it's kind of developed into complications because Satoshi started stepping away and he's not talking to anybody. And she's learning through the grapevine that it comes down to the suffering he's going through at home. Now, in her perspective, in the side of her that is the human side that doesn't follow pure logic anymore and is just desperately hoping to see more of him, but she already sees so little of him, she started to kind of exhibit a frustration with Satoko, because in her eyes, Satoko is the one who is causing him the most strain. If it was up to him, he probably wouldn't be being targeted by his aunt so much. He wouldn't have to work as hard, and even him stepping away from the baseball team, which means she's not seeing him anymore, it's ostensibly to buy a present for Satoko. And so she's kind of gone into this victim blaming, where she's starting to blame Satoko for the problem, not the aunt who's causing all the trouble to begin with. It's a very common reaction. I can see why that could immediately make people be very hostile or not happy with Shion. And I agree, it's a detestable attitude to have, but it's also very, like I said, a human one. Unfortunately, it's way too common for people to victim blame. And it's not as simple as, I'm trying to protect the person who's committing the crime. It often comes down to optics. For her, because Shion's never interacted with the aunt, nor does she have any grounds to understand or comprehend just how evil it is. She's kind of justifying the aunt's actions as an inevitability because adults can't be controlled nor really understood, especially for someone so young. So the easiest explanation is maybe there's a reason for that. But it's funny because it faces blindsiding, because think about all the headaches that Shion is giving to Mion, giving to her parents and her grandmother. All the crazy stuff that she's going through right now, I imagine she would blame on the adults in her life and the choices that they're making and the restrictions of the family. She wouldn't blame herself Although you could also say, through her own lens of the way she's being critical of Satoko, that she's the one who's causing the problems. That she's the one who ran away from school. She's the one that's causing the drama. She's the one being disruptive. But she won't see it that way because she's biased, because we're people. So I get why people don't like Shion, especially as you get this kind of real look at her humanity. I also get why people love Shion and love this chapter, because it really brings out a very human element to a typically very superficial character. Like, she's always kind of coming in and needling people. She's always the one coming in and stirring the pot and making things funny or dynamic or interesting or dropping hints about the greater mystery that's going on. Now seeing her as a full character, I think, is showing greater appeal and greater depth to her because it contains her flaws. I don't know if it's going to sell me on the fact that I think that oh yeah, Shion's going to be my favorite character, that I like her more than Mion, but I do feel like I understand her a lot better than I did before, and I appreciate that. Anyway, we're going to jump right in, continue the chapter, see where we go from here, because we're getting closer and closer to Watanagashi, and I think we're going to start seeing Satoshi kind of beginning to crumble. And we got a hint at the end of the last part that Shion's asking for a big favor from Mion, that they can trade places at school. So Shion can go to school and see Satoshi again. So let's see how that goes down.
Hi, 委員長号令。
Right, that's us. For a moment, I forgot that the class president was me.
起立。委員長も少し寝不足みたいですね。最近は寝苦しい夜が続きます。
Yeah.
でも、しっかりと睡眠はとるように。
It's interesting, because, like, I understand, like, getting too hot and not being able to sleep well, but I tend to get too cold. Like, even now, like, I'm in a warm house, but I'm wearing a sweater because I get chilly really easily. So for me, I actually sleep better in the summer most of the time. Now, if it gets ridiculously hot, like, it's in the freaking 90s and humid, and the AC, and I don't have AC, or the AC just isn't keeping up for whatever reason, yeah, it's not fun. So back then, no one probably had AC, especially in the mountains in Japan. Like, I imagine the best you could hope for is a fan.
いいですね、皆さん。はーい。
I'm not sure this place could be called a school, because there's so many different age groups. It's like a kindergarten and an elementary school blended together. Since I'd heard already about what the place was like, I didn't feel that uncomfortable. It wasn't too difficult to act like Mion here. As Sis told me, Satoshi-kun looked exhausted. I said hi to him, but he ignored me. Since I knew what he'd been going through, his pain looked apparent to me. I was interested in another person in the classroom. Satoko, Satoshi-kun's little sister. She looked as worn out as Satoshi-kun, emotionless like an abandoned doll. Everybody in the room was aware of their circumstances, but nobody could do anything for them. So they just acted as though nothing was wrong. That's so gross. It sucks. Like, it sucks because, like, you know, it hurts, and it's like, that doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel proper, but at the same time, what else are they gonna do, right? Like, it's the same situation we saw in chapter 3. It's basically exactly the same. Mion will only let me have this one day. If I slacked off even a little bit, today would be over with quickly. I had to figure out what I should do in this limited time. I should probably talk to Satoshi-kun. About what? Anything goes. Cheer him up, sympathize with him, anything will do. More than anything, I just wanted to chat with him. However, Sis had told me, she said Satoshi-kun doesn't communicate much with her lately, and had distanced himself from her. I figured I shouldn't talk to him so casually. I wanted to, but maybe it was better to leave him alone. I needed to keep Sis's warnings in mind, but instead I decided to ignore them. Okay, because, you know, nothing's better than ignoring advice. Let's see how this goes. I looked for Satoshi-kun during lunch break. He was walking as if looking for a place where he could be alone. I caught him in the hallway.
Satoshi-kun.
He turned around, startled by my voice. His facial expression surprised me. He was scowling, clearly a sign of rejection. But I couldn't hesitate. I'd lose my only chance if I did.
さ、元気?
He gave me a look as if saying, "Do I look fine to you?" I never expected to see an expression like that on his face. Felt like my heart was beating torn to pieces. As I looked down, he spoke to me. I felt a little glad, but the next thing he said changed that.
元気だよ.
Oh gosh, he sounds so defeated.
他に用はないなら行くよ。
Aw, it's so sad.
昼休みは一人になりたいんだ。
そっか。バイトが大変なんだよね。疲れてるから一人になって休みたいもんね。
Oh, it hurts.
今日もなんでしょ？今日はどこで？
Sis had found several jobs for him. He worked at a few different places. Oh gosh, no wonder he's tired. He was helping out when necessary at the shops that Mion introduced him to. As a result, he constantly had to do different tasks in different environments almost every time. On top of that, he requested high-paying jobs from Mion because he wanted a large sum of money as soon as possible. In other words, he'd chosen mostly to do manual labor. He was exhausted every day because he wasn't that physically strong.
どこでもいいだろう。それに僕がどこで働くかミオンなら知ってることじゃないのかい？
Mion did help him get the job. Yet Satoshi-kun didn't look that thankful for the opportunity. This wasn't like him at all. It made me feel sad.
あはは、そうだよね。
Ah!
ごめん。
要はそれで終わりかい？
He sounded so harsh. Why was he being like that? Would he ever stroke my head again? I couldn't help my tears. They flowed onto my cheeks. Satoshi-kun looked confused for a moment, but then frowned again.
ごめん。監督がさ、また練習に来てほしいなって言ってたよ。
監督にはもうチームは辞めたいって伝えたはずだよ。
Oh gosh.
戻る気はないし。
たまにはさ、パッと体を動かして汗を流すのもいいと思うんだよ。
This isn't gonna work, Shion, but I get it.
ほら、スポーツっていろいろと。
興味ない。
I didn't know why he was being so hostile toward me. Why did he hate me so much? I was left bewildered.
なんで？どうして？
バイトで忙しいからめんどくさい。
違うよ。なんで私がここまで嫌われなくちゃならないの？
自分の胸に聞けばいいじゃないか。
Oh, fetch.
自分の胸に？何を？私が何をしたの？わかんないよ、サトシくん。
I couldn't control my emotions any longer. Streaks of tears ran down my cheeks. Satoshi-kun gave me a hateful glare and walked away without saying another word. Dang, wait, what did she do? I couldn't even stop him. I mean, he blames Mion for something, but what? If I tried, he'd hurt me again with another cutting remark. I couldn't bear that, so I just watched him walk away. I wiped my tears and went back to the classroom. I heard somebody crying from inside. What's going on? I looked around the room to see. It was Satoko. I saw her bento box on the floor. I asked one of her classmates what happened, and it seemed Satoko had bumped into somebody's shoulder while she stood up to go wash the box out. That was all. But Satoko was crying, as if afraid she was going to be chided badly. What happened was very minor. She could just pick the bento box up and things would be fine. It looked like the lid came a little loose, but it was definitely flexible. She didn't have to cry like that. Yet Satoko started begging through her tears.
助けてよ。助けてよ。いいに。
Oh, I hate this! Because of what happened to Satoshi-kun, I couldn't suppress my emotions very well. Oh no. So instead, they exploded. I stormed up to Satoko while elbowing her classmates aside. Alright, Shion. You're really pushing my attempts to try and humanize you. I can't totally get what's about to happen here, but I'm not happy about it. I grabbed her by the head and threw her to the wall. Fetch me! Why? Satoko screamed. She didn't seem to understand what had happened. She was shedding tears and shivering. She must be wondering why I did that. Why did you do that?
なんであんたがそういう目に遭うか。
Yeah, this is freaking ridiculous. Satoko cried for her brother's help again, and so I grabbed her head and threw her again. Could this be the foundation for why Satoko also blames herself for her brother going away? Satoko stumbled and crashed into a desk. The desk fell and contents of the drawer scattered about. This is gross. Satoko didn't even stand up. She just crouched and trembled while looking up at me.
助けて。助けて。 だが、そんなだから。
If you weren't like that, Satoshi-kun wouldn't have to suffer, don't you get it? That's why I wanted to say, but I was too angry to utter another word. I picked up a bunch of textbooks on the floor and threw them at her face.
泣きた
Why?
ければ泣けばいい。でもね、泣いたってね、何も解決しない。なんで泣くの？
Sheesh.
泣けば誰かが助けてくれるから。その助けてくれる人があんたの代わりにどれだけ傷ついてるかなんて想像もつかないでしょ。分かってるの？あんたの罪が。あんたなんかいなければいい。苦しいなら死ね。へそでも噛んで勝手に死んじゃえばいい。
Sheesh.
サトシ君まで苦しめるな。一人で苦しんで一人で勝手に死ね。お前なんか死んでしまえ。
Her desperate cries only increased my irritation.
泣けばいいと思うな。サトシ君にすがれば済むと思うな。甘えるんじゃない。お前さえいなければ。お前さえいなければ。
I kept on throwing things at her. Satoko curled up to protect herself and cried even harder. At this point, a girl with long hair ran up and huddled over her. I knew who that was. Rika Furude. One of Satoko's only friends. Yeah!
サトコをいじめないでなのです。サトコはかわいそうなのです。いじめてはダメなのです。かわいそうだから何をしても許されると思ってる？かわいそうだからサトシ君に寄りかかってもいいわけ？甘やかしてるんじゃないよ。こいつがどこまでも甘えてるからサトシ君が辛い思いをしなくちゃならないんだ。ダメなのです。サトコをいじめちゃダメなのです。
Rika also became the target of my anger.
私はね、その甘えきったサトコの根性を教育してやってんだよ。
Oh, cool. Great. Because, the best of lessons go down like this. It's totally going to actually teach her and help her.
邪魔しやがるとあんたの頭から叩き割るよ。
I grabbed the chair and lifted it over my head. Mion's really not going to be able to work with you after this. It would hurt only a little if I threw this thing at them. Rika tightly closed her eyes and covered Satoko with her body. I didn't care what the consequences would be. I didn't care if I hurt them.
やめて、みーちゃん。
Rena returned to the classroom and shouted at me. Then Satoshi-kun rushed in while pushing Rena aside. Seeming to have guessed the situation immediately, he charged straight at me. Until my body had hit the locker, I didn't understand what happened. There was a loud crashing noise. I left a dent in it. I crouched there in pain.
サトコ！大丈夫か？サトコ！にー
I mean, you get what you deserve, Shion, unfortunately. Satoko pushed Rika aside, jumped at her brother, and started crying again.
どうしたんだよ。どうして。
サトコが私ね、何もしてないのにミオンさんが
どういうことだよ、ミオン！
There. Satoshi-kun shouted at me while clutching his sister. He looked fierce.
どういうことって？
サトコが何をしたよ！僕たちが何をしたよ！なんでいつもいじめられなきゃならないんだよ！
I mean, he's not wrong.
どうしてだよ！
Why in any reasonable thinking could possibly justify in your head? I know she's not being reasonable. She's driven by pure emotion, which is why. But it still feels so frustrating to think like, how could Shion be in a position where this feels like it actually would help or communicate her ideas? I know it's ultimately her boiling over with frustration. It's the motivation for most abuse in any situation. Like, people are being controlled by emotion, not by logic. Like, you don't, like, there's no, like, you hear the jokes sometimes like, oh, when I was a kid, they beat me and it taught me all the important lessons. I think if you actually examined, like, the boomers who talk about stuff like that, I doubt they would actually say that they learned anything really palatable or truly, like, meaningful from receiving a type of physical beating. Like, that teaches you fear. It doesn't teach you what to fear or why you fear. It just teaches fear. fear of retaliation. Maybe that can seem too course correct, but I don't think it's I don't think anybody who actually sat and examined their feelings and thoughts, who actually like sat down and really took a look at their own like ways of thinking and doing things, could actually say that any type of corporal punishment is truly justifiable. The closest you can ever get is when people are messing up so badly that they need like a wake-up call, but I still even say that doesn't even work. It doesn't work for adults, doesn't work for kids especially. Corporal punishment never works. Not the way it should. Not the way you think it would. It only serves to make the person who's feeling the emotions feel a bit better, and also makes it so that they feel fear. And if you're content with controlling through fear and fear alone, the people who are closest to you, then I suppose it works. But I think any normal, balanced, reasonable person would look at a situation like this from the outside and be like, what on earth could this possibly be bringing about? What on earth could be the benefit of this? Because that's just the fact. There is no good benefit. There's no actual teaching moment. There's no bonding. There's no actual like lessons being learned. It's just punishment. Punishment for the sake of punishment. Especially when you don't even express yourself. Like, she didn't even give Satoko a proper answer. She just started attacking her. It's so gross. But it's also so true to what people are like. He released Satoko and rushed up to me, grabbing me by the neck.
さっきサトシ君は私に自分の胸に聞けって言ったよね。ならサトコの胸に聞いてみりゃいいじゃない。
何を。
サトシ君だって自分で認めてるんでしょ。サトコがあんたにべったり頼ってるからサトシ君の重荷になってるんでしょ。サトコがもっとしっかりしてればサトシ君がこんなに大変な思いをすることなんてない。
That's not true.
そいつが全ての元凶なの。
I don't believe what I said was wrong. But after hearing it, Satoshi-kun went berserk.
こいついい加減なこと言うんじゃない。
Satoshi-kun grabbed my hair and threw me to the wall just like I did to Satoko. However, I wasn't going to back down. I no longer had any control over my emotions at all.
サトシ君だってサトコを甘やかしすぎてるよ。あんたがそうやって際限なく甘やかすからそいつはいつまで経ってもあんたにすがってばかりなんだよ。
And I think this is kind of, again, like, I feel like this is the foundation motivation behind Satoko's attitude in the third chapter when she's refusing to acknowledge what's happening or asking for any help at all. She desperately wants help. She desperately wanted to help. But she, hearing this, probably cemented this idea that, like, if I were stronger, then Satoshi wouldn't have left. If I were stronger, he wouldn't have suffered. I think she's going to internalize this, even though most of this is directed now at Satoshi.
お前に僕たちの何がわかる。何がわかるってんだよ。父さんや母さんを村ぐるみで追い詰めて、そして今度は僕たちか。
Oh. Interesting that he's been able to be friends with them, but maybe it was recently where he was able, where maybe he learned about the connection about how his parents were, like, hounded by the Guardians, and that Shion and Mion, being members of the Sonozakis, were basically, conflated with that.
それがその崎家のやり方なんだろ。どこまでも村の裏切り者をいじめ抜く。 そんなに楽しいかよ。弱い者いじめがそんなに楽しいかよ。
もうやめて。
That was Retta's voice. She stepped in, looking as fierce as a demon.
サトシ君、もうやめてあげて。みーちゃんに悪気はなかった。
I don't know if I agree with that, but okay.
サトシ君の力になってあげたくて、その気持ちがちょっとずれて空回りしちゃっただけ。ね。
Satoshi-kun looked like he wanted to say something back, but he chose not to.
みーちゃんももうやめて。みーちゃんが誰よりもサトシ君のことを心配してるのは知ってる。だけれど、こんなやり方はそれの解決にはならない。
She's right.
そんなの、ちょっと落ち着いて考えればわかることだよね。
Since Satoshi-kun didn't say anything, I kept quiet too.
ほら、さとこちゃんもお弁当箱を落としたくらいで泣くことはないよ。ね、落ち着いた？ さとこ。僕がお弁当箱を拾ってあげますよ。
Yeah, like casually, like, oh hey Satoko, like here, you feel better now, right? You didn't just get assaulted. Rika started picking up the bento box while its owner continued to cry.
みんな、片付けを手伝ってくれる？もうすぐ先生がカレー菜園から戻ってくる頃だよ。これでもう喧嘩は終わったから、先生には余計なことは言わない。いいね。
The classmates looked at each other and nodded, then started picking up the stuff off the floor.
はい。サトシくんもみーちゃんも仲直りの握手。ほら。
ごめん。こんなつもりじゃなかったのに。
Tears started to roll down my cheeks again. Huh.
僕も悪かった。僕たちがいじめられてるのは大人の都合でごめん。
さあ、みーちゃんは次にさとこちゃんに謝る。はい。
I was fine with apologizing to Satoshi-kun, but I didn't want to apologize to her. You... Alright, Shion. You're really pushing my patience here. Oh, boy! But the situation wouldn't be settled otherwise, so I reluctantly apologized. Satoko nodded, looking discouraged. After that, Rena let me go. My head ached, so I held it with both hands. What was that? What did I do? I didn't want to use this precious time to fight. She just had warned me. She told me I shouldn't talk to Satoshi-kun just like that. What did I come here for? I shouldn't have come here if I knew this was going to happen. Stupid. You're stupid, Shion. Yeah, you are. I was overcome by emotions because I was worried about Satoshi-kun. When did the things go wrong? Where were they? Were they wrong from the beginning? I got into a fight with Satoshi-kun. That was totally the opposite of what I wanted. I regretted it. I hated myself for it. I couldn't blame myself enough. My world had been torn apart. I wish the sky would fall and kill me. No, you won't get that peace, unfortunately. Man, this is going to be an awkward conversation with Mion, isn't it? Sis sounded both amazed and confused.
ただでさえ渡流しの直前でいろいろと忙しいってのに、シオンは話をさらにややこしくしてくれるな。
That's freaking an understatement.
ごめん。
Sis tried to say something, but she stopped in the middle. After listening for a few complaints, I started telling her about everything that happened today. Sis had pretended the trouble I'd caused today was her responsibility, which must have been very taxing for her.
もう当分は入れ替わる機会はない。
I figure you've kind of lost that privilege, yes.
シオン、あんた、ちょっとは私の迷惑を考えてほしいな。
Uh-huh, yeah.
それは、うん。
Sis had been sympathetic, but maybe I pushed her too far this time. You assaulted her friends! She has to explain that to people for the next, like, several years. Everyone's gonna always wonder what the heck happened there. And you're never gonna have a good explanation for it because what is she supposed to say? Good grief. I feel almost as bad for Mion as I do for Satoshi and Satoko. Not quite, because at least, like, they actually were physically attacked, which is crazy. But Mion basically had her reputation and, like, her, like, mental sanity attacked, because people are going to be looking at her with dubiousness now. Of course, she'd be hesitant to trade spots, considering what I did today. The atmosphere felt awkward, so we were both silent for a while.
仮にさ、もう一回機会があったとして、シオンはどうするの？
That was a reasonable question. I wasn't prepared to answer, though. If I had a chance to go to school once again and see Satoshi-kun, what would I do? Would I apologize to him about today? I don't think that would work. That might even upset him again, no matter how hard I tried. Okay, here's something that he was saying. It was that Sonozaki family who had been harassing his. It would only be natural for him to hold a grudge against us. But why was he only expressing that now? I've been with Sonozaki to him all along. Satoshi-kun stroked my head every time he knew it was when he knew that I was Mion Sonozaki.
おねえ、率直なところ、サトシ君は園崎家を恨んでるんだよね。
I'm thinking he only recently made that connection. Maybe when he started working these jobs, he overheard it from one of the owners or something.
だと思う。
I mean, can you blame him? It was our family that initiated the persecution of the Hojo family, making them into scapegoats. Even after the damn conflict, it wasn't easy for the Hojo family to live in Hinamizawa. Given all that, it's not surprising that Satoshi-kun hates us. The Sonozaki family put his family in a devastating situation.
でもさ、だったら、なんでなの？なんで、今頃になってなの？
Well, because he probably was able to distance it from you, because he said you like Mion, his friend, and like that she wasn't involved in the decisions that led to that. But it's one of those things too where it's like, I think there could be resentment there, primarily not because he's like, oh, Mion was clearly behind and like motivating all of that persecution. She might have been for it, but she also was like a kid, so whatever. But it's this kind of situation of like where the Sonozakis benefited from the persecution of my family. So while Mion and by extension Shion didn't directly persecute my family, kill my parents, and put me in the situation that I'm in right now, their family benefited from that directly. And that means that they indirectly benefited from the pain that was passed on to him and his family. And I think as soon as you made that connection, it'd be hard not to hold a little bit of resentment, even if they had nothing to do with it. It's the same idea with like why Shion attacked Satoko. It's not that she thinks Satoko is causing harm to Satoshi, but she's thinking and blaming Satoko's weakness as the reason why Satoshi's being targeted. It's like this idea that like while Satoko did nothing wrong, she's benefiting from the pain of another. And that's how I think he sees the Sonozakis. He doesn't look at Mion and think Mion destroyed my family and makes my life hell, but she benefits from those decisions.
なんで、今頃になって、こうなるの？それならいっそ。
If he'd rejected me in the first place, I wouldn't have wanted to get closer to him. My tears wet my cheeks, and I didn't bother to wipe them. It's only natural for him to hold a grudge against the Sonozakis. There's nothing unusual about it. Rather, why has he been treating me like a friend? I know how stupid this question was.
サトシが大人だったからとしか
He was
言えない
mature.
と思う。
そんなのって。
He'd been treating me as a friend because he was mature? But now that he's become stressed mentally and physically, he's decided to reject me? No matter how hard I thought about it, I couldn't find anything to fault him with. If there was somebody to blame, it'd be somebody I'd never accused before.
なんで、鬼ババはサトシ君の一家をいじめようって言い出したわけ？ダムに賛成したのはサトシ君の親でしょ？サトシ君が賛成していたわけじゃないでしょ？なんで一家丸ごといじめようって話になったの？
I don't know. It's the same logic of like, you weren't involved in the and you aren't involved in the decision making of the Sonozaki family, but you benefit and are detrimented by those decisions. It's the same thing. Kids get caught up in stuff because they're part of the family.
どうしてよ？
Mion couldn't say anything in return. Actually, it wasn't that hard to guess the reason. The hag didn't give a specific order to harass the Hojo family. She just thought the Hojo family was getting in the way. The people around her noticed what was bothering her and took steps to get rid of it. Though, of course, she must have known how influential her own words were. She didn't just think it. She gave what she must have known would be interpreted as an order. She's the one to blame for initiating the attack on the Hojo family.
前にお姉は、フルデの神主さんのことを、和を乱すのは大人じゃないみたいなことを言いましたよね。つまりこれもそういうわけ。村中が団結しなきゃならない時に、異を唱える北条家は大人じゃなかったと。だから制裁する必要があったと。 そういうわけなんでしょ？
Mion couldn't say anything in return, meaning that my accusation was the truth.
なら制裁は北条の親だけで十分じゃない。本家の拷問室にでも連れ込んで指の一本も跳ねてやったらいい。でもそこまでで十分でしょ？サトシ君は関係ない。サトシ君には何の関係もない。サトシ君が何をしたっていうの？サトシ君に何の罪があるっていうの？答えてよ、答えてよ、ミオン、ミオン。
はい。ではよろしくお願いいたしますね。失礼いたします。
Oh, gosh. Mion suddenly changed her tone and hung up. She must have done that to escape from my questions. I was furious. Or, Grandma walked into the room, and she has to pretend that she's not talking to her sister. I started reading the number, but then I remembered that we decided she'd hang up the phone after using that phrase when she saw the hag coming. I doubted she actually saw the hag. But it was the rule, so I couldn't call back for a while. When I went to the bathroom to wash my face and cool down, I turned the faucet and the water felt lukewarm. It didn't help me cool down at all. I'm disgusted by my own childishness. I just wanted to fill the void. I didn't care about him. Considering that, Satoshi-kun was very generous, but I don't know if I can forgive Satoko. That's a different story. Notebook, page 26. Dang. Did that really end? That was a short chapter. But a powerful one. Oh, not quite done yet. I was looking up at the ceiling with my arms and legs spread out. It was not that I wasn't getting hungry. I didn't live with my parents. I didn't live in the school dorm. That meant I had to cook something myself when I wanted to eat. I knew that, but I still didn't feel like getting up. It had been several days since I began this empty life. It must be tomorrow. The Watanagashi festival, I mean. I heard the doorbell ringing. Okay, I ignored it at first, but it rung persistently. I started hearing knocking alongside Kasai's rude voice.
シオンさん、いらっしゃるなら開けてください。弁当を買ってきました。
I didn't ask him to. He must have known I hadn't eaten enough and I'd been feeling down lately.
やはり食事を取られていませんでしたか。
Holy cow, wait, like, look at all these decorations that are here now. Stuffed bear, like, bunny garbage can, super brain first live, what?
別にお腹が空いてるわけじゃないし。
But when Kasai put the food on the table, my stomach reacted with a primitive way by making some noise.
ほら、お腹が鳴っている。食べた方がいいですよ。
I was hungry, but had no appetite. I mean, I did have an appetite, but I didn't have the energy to eat. Yet I'd feel bad wasting food Kasai had brought. I picked up my chopsticks and just to humor him.
最近はばあさんがマークしてるんじゃなかったの？私のとこなんかに来て大丈夫なわけ？
おりょうさんは綿流しの打ち合わせなどでお忙しく、シオンさんのことまでは最近は頭が回らないようでしたので。
Right.
クリームコロッケは好物ではありませんでしたか？
うん。美味しいです。ありがとう。
While I nibbled on the food, Kasai read through the magazines I'd brought.
カサイは。
Wow, look how pink this room is.
うん。
I'd never talked to Kasai about something like this before. Since I've always believed myself superior to him psychologically, I hesitated to show my weakness to him. Look at that. I believed myself superior to him psychologically. She just, I mean, I get why, but it's also like, how hubris, how prideful.
そういう悩みも年頃にしておくのは悪いもんじゃありませんよ。
カサイ、あんた全部知ってる？
ミオンさんから少々力になってほしいと頼まれました。
お姉か。
心配しておられましたよ、ミオンさん。
Yeah, in her own way. Without responding, I threw the last croquette in my mouth.
北条サトシ君の近況を知りたがっていると思いまして、少し情報を集めてきましたが、余計なお世話でしたか？
余計なお世話です。でも、せっかく集めてきたカサイの顔を立てるために、まあ一応聞いておきます。
Real smooth, me, Shion. Totally don't want to know. Just, you know. Kasai chuckled, but stopped quickly as if thinking it rude.
北条哲平が家を出たらしいです。
Oh, interesting.
沖宮に実婚の関係の女性がいまして、
哲平？誰？ああ、サトシ君のおじか。
Yeah, him.
家には、叔母の北条玉江と北条聡、聡子の3人となりました。玉江は、鉄平が別の女性のところへ逃げたのだと気づき、大層機嫌を悪くしたらしいですね。
So I'm sure it's been a lot worse.
ってことはあれだ。ますます叔母の里子いびりが加速して、サトシ君もそれのとばっちりで、ますますに苦労してるってことか。
サトシ君の方はわかりませんが、聡子さんの方は近所でも噂になるくらい、決して良くはない状況です。
If Satoko looks miserable, that means Satoshi-kun must be going through equally miserable torture.
その叔母って、なんとかならないの？憎き北条家の片割れなわけだから。園崎本家で制裁しちゃおうって話にはなってないの？
Like, look at this. She's also one of the remaining Hyojos after all. Like, it's like you hated and talked about how, like, why are they punishing the family? They, you know, and then she's immediately saying, why aren't we punishing the family? Hypocritical. The uncle's gone, so why not the aunt?
園崎本家としては、北条夫妻の事故死で一応のけじめがついたので、北条関連では一切手を出すなと言命が出ています。夫妻の事故死を疑う警察が、北条家近辺を未だマークしているという噂がありますので。
So he's saying, hey, we've been told don't mess with her, and the police might be watching anyway.
事故死はお社様のたたりってことになってるからね。神罰が下ったんなら、それ以上は人間が下すまでもないってこと？
Kasai put on a faint smile. Come to think of it, it is hard not to suspect the involvement of the Sonozaki family in all the incidents said to be Oyoshio-sama's curse. Somebody strives to get rid of the hag's concerns on the day of the Watanagashi festival. Furthermore, the Watanagashi festival is going to be held tomorrow. Will the curse strike again this year? If so, who will be the victim? Now that I think about it, there were cases of multiple victims in the past. The first and third years, it was just one, but the second year, the victims were a couple. So it wouldn't be too strange if 2 people fell victim this year. Seems like a good time. It'd be the best for Satoko and her aunt to be the victims. It's called fetch. She's wishing for Satoko to be taken out. Holy crap! Satoshi's gonna be freed from every source of his worries all at once.
葛西、今年のお社様のたたりの犠牲者は誰かって、もう決まってるの？
Just casually.
決めるのはばあさん？ならお姉は、明日の犠牲者をもう知ってるってことになるな。どうなの葛西？何か聞かされてる？
It's just blatantly saying like, hey, has it already been decided? But if we believe Rika, the targets were decided years ago.
シオンさん、私はその件については一切聞かされていません。
まあ、そりゃそうか。火災ごときの耳に本家の最高機密が入るわけもないか。
そういうことです。少なくとも私の関係する界隈では、そういう話は降りてきていません。ですが、ご存知の通り、本家は裏の世界の方々に通じます。
Right.
私にはその一部を垣間見ることも叶いません。
Maybe I could try asking Sis about it, but she won't talk. She's strict about keeping promises, unlike me. If the hag told her to keep a secret, she'd take it to her grave.
今年の綿流しで、おばとさとこが消えちまえばいいのにな。
Careful what you wish for.
葛西、私は憂慮したよ。気を利かせてくれると嬉しいんですけど。
Oh, she's doing the hag thing.
シオンさん、ご冗談を。
わーってるって。言ってみただけだって。
I took a glimpse at Kasai. I didn't look like he was actually going to do something to make my wish come true. I wasn't able to go to the villages myself, so I definitely wasn't going to the festival. I didn't care about that. Even so, I was interested in who might be going to end up as the victim of the curse. If I just kept lying on this couch playing hooky, somebody would fall victim in several hours. I had no clue why it had to happen every year, but it was certain that the hag was behind it, and all the enemies from the dam conflict had to be punished. Only the Hyojo couple was left, since most of the other enemies had already gone. The cicadas were crying loudly outside. It made me feel hot. Why was it hot and humid in June? If Oyashio-sama was actually punishing people, I'd pray for one thing. I'd pray that the evil aunt would be punished, and I'd offer up Satoko as a sacrifice. Huh. It's hot. When I woke up, Kasai had already gone. It looked like he cleaned up the table and surrounding room. He put my dirty laundry in the hamper in front of the washing machine, too. Being a girl of sensitive age, I didn't want a man to clean my room. Well, I'd rather thank him than badmouth him. I looked at the clock. It was late afternoon. I had to go to grocery shopping. There was nothing left in the fridge. I'd been having just rice for dinner if I didn't go. At that moment, the phone rang. It must be Kasai, I thought. I did hope it was him. He could have brought me more food. So then I wouldn't have to go shopping. While I was just being lazy. I didn't feel like going out at all. But it wasn't Kasai on the phone.
おねえ、そこ、どこ？本家じゃない？
あ、うん。公衆電話からかけてる。
Okay.
だから手短に話すよ。サトシから電話が来たんだよ。
Oh.
サトシ君が？おねえに？
多分、私にじゃないと思う。シオンにだと思う。サトシは、先日の教室での件を謝りたがってるみたいだった。
Aw.
だから、その電話はシオンが受けた方がいいと思って。サトシの電話は、今ちょっと忙しいからすぐかけ直すって言って切ってあるの。だからシオンは、今から私が言う電話番号に電話してあげて。
Honestly, it's kind of good for Mion to do this.
わかった。
I was stunned for a second, but then recovered and wrote down the number on the back of a magazine.
ありがとう。すぐに電話します。
そうしてあげて。サトシは最近、すごく追い詰められてるの。私の声はもう届かないみたいだけど、シオンの声なら、ひょっとすると届くかもしれないって。
Okay.
何の根拠もなく思ってる。
Oh, sorry. I'm getting excited, so I keep clicking. She could have pretended to be me and handled the call, but she passed it over to me.
ありがとう、ミオン。
じゃあね、シオン。
Before she hung up, I put the headset down. Then after a second, I dialed the number in a flash. I heard the dial tone 3 times, 4 times, and there he was.
北条です。
He sounded like an adult. His voice sounded a bit tired too, but it definitely was the voice I loved. I got scared. I was scared that he might become sulky again and mention my name. I couldn't open my mouth for a while.
サトシ君ですよね。
さっきはごめん。もう時間は大丈夫なの。
That was the Satoshi-kun I knew. He didn't sound cold like the other day.
うん、全然平気です。
God, he sounds like he's barely holding it together. After that, he went silent. I felt the urge to start a conversation. It wasn't fair. He was the one who called in the first place. Then, he finally spoke.
先日はごめん。
私こそごめんなさいです。
ミオンは謝らなくていいよ。僕がどうかしてた。
I don't think that's the case. If this were a face-to-face conversation, he'd be stroking my head. It was sad just talking to him over the phone.
僕たちをここまで追い込んだ奴らを、そいつらは、
Right.
でも、決してミオンじゃなかったんだ。
Exactly.
だから、僕は君にだけは謝ろうと思って。
気にしないで。私だってサトシ君のことをよく理解しようともせず、無神経だった。
We apologized to each other a few times.
それよりサトシ君、大丈夫？いろいろと大変なのに、サトコの誕生日プレゼントのためにアルバイトまでして、だいぶ追い詰められてるんじゃない？もう
バイトはやめたよ。目標額のお金はなんとか貯められたみたいだからね。
そうなんだ。ならもう体を無理させなくていいんですね。本当によかった。
Satoshi-kun tried to say something, but he dropped it instead.
僕よりサトコの方が辛い。
サトコ、大変なことになっていますね。大丈夫なんですか？
あれが大丈夫なように見えるのかよ。
Like, it's weird playing the sad music still, but then hearing the snap. He suddenly sounded upset. I'd messed up.
ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。
was so stupid. I had ruined this miraculous conversation with him. Satoshi-kun didn't respond to my apology, so I stopped apologizing.
あんなに誰が見てもわかるくらいに傷ついてボロボロでみんな見捨てた。サトコ
I think
見
you're...
捨てた。
And Shion, your actions, I think, did that too. I think everyone got scared to associate with her.
見捨てたつもりなんて。
I tried to calm him down. I hated what I just said because of how hollow it sounded. I had no idea what to say next. I felt guilty. Satoshi-kun was desperate to protect Satoko from their evil aunt. But I'd wished that Satoko would die tomorrow because of the curse. I was trampling on his desperate hope.
サトコはもう擦り切れる直前なんだ。だから
So I'm gonna do something about it. He cut himself off in the middle and went quiet for a moment. He must have been choosing his words very carefully. Then he finally spoke. His words sounded hollow.
だからせめて一夜くらい遊ばせてやりたいんだ。
Oh, the festival.
Eh?
Oh, it's the same thing that freaking Keiichi said too.
遊ばせるって。
ほら、明日は綿流しのお祭りじゃないか。サトコをお祭りに連れ出してやってほしいんだ。
Now it's interesting because, like, remember when in chapter 3 when Keiichi called Mion and said the same phrase, she had that weird reaction where she's like, "What did you say?" And then he said that, and he's like, I heard that once before, right before Watanagashi where Satoshi vanished. You're not going anywhere, right? Like they had that conversation. Did that mean that he was talking to Shion at that time?
それは構わないけど、どうして？
サトコもいろいろと参ってる。たとえ一夜でも、おばさんのいないところで羽を伸ばせたなら、
Yep.
きっと喜ぶと思うんだ。
It's the same.
だから、どうして？
どうしてって。
It's not that I didn't understand why he wanted to take her to her taken to the festival. What I didn't understand was why he was asking me to do that. Why was there any reason he couldn't take her there himself? I had a hunch he might disappear, so I kept asking.
どうしてって何がだい？
どうして、サトシ君が自分で連れて行ってあげないの？
He fell silent. Satoshi-kun isn't good at lying or keeping secrets. It was clear he wanted to hide something.
用事だよ。
You just said you quit, dude.
僕、明日はちょっとバイトの関係で用事があって、
He was
どうして
lying.
もお祭りには行けないんだ。
I was trying to keep clicking too early. He was lying. But he also was stubborn. He wouldn't admit it if I accused him.
ねえ、ミオン。明日の夜だけ、サトコを頼めないかな。
I wouldn't want to look after Satoko, even at Satoshi-kun's request. But I'm also glad he's relying on me.
あれだけの暴言をぶつけて、それを謝るついでに、こんなことを頼むなんて、ミオンだけが頼りなんだ。
I didn't know what to say. I did know, though, that I wasn't going to turn down his request.
うん、わかった。明日の晩だけだよ。
できたら、明日の晩だけじゃなく、これからもずっとがいい
God,
な。
he's talking like it's already over.
何言ってるんですか？そんなの嫌です。明日だけですからね。
He sounded as if he was going to disappear tomorrow. I didn't like the sound of that, so I intentionally sounded sulky. We talked about trivial stuff for just a little while. When the conversation was almost over, Satoshi-kun asked something else.
ねえ、ミオン。こんなことを話すと、きっと精神的に病んでるって思われるんで、本当は嫌なんだけど。
Yeah?
どうしたんですか？
ミオンは
What?
信じないよね。
The curse.
何をですか？
お社様のたたり。
Mm-hmm. Here we go.
サトシ君、何の話ですか？
お社様は確かほら
村を捨てて逃げ出そうとするとたたるでしょう。
Oh, those chimes. Chills. Chills. It's the rule. Every kid in the village knows that.
どうしたんです突然。村を捨てて逃げようとでもしてるんですか
Though I was kidding, I wanted him to deny it.
もうそんな気はないんだ。もう。
Anymore. He admitted that he had thought of it. I guess Rena told me that much.
いいじゃないですか。もうそんな気がないのなら。
でも、まだ許してもらえないんだ。
え
Satoshi-kun tried to say something but hesitated. He was breathing so heavily. It's the curse. He's still hearing the footsteps. He still feels like he's being watched. Was he sick?
具合悪いの
ごめん。
サトシ君は少し頑張りすぎたから少し休んだ方がいいです。
He sounded distinctly more sickly from when the conversation had started. He breathed heavily while punctuating his words. Satoshi-kun repeated his question. Do you believe?
ミオン、最初の質問を。ミオンは、お社様のたたりって、
Do you believe?
存在すると思うかい？
What did he want me to say? Could I make him feel relieved with my answer? How should I respond? The answer was simple.
たたりなんてあるわけないじゃないですか。
I still agree. As I said with my crazy conspiracy chart, I'm pretty sure it's not a curse. I didn't know what was bothering him, but I wanted to make him feel better by laughing his worries away. But Satoshi-kun instead fell silent. Would my answer make him happy or maybe sad? I couldn't tell. One thing was certain, I didn't make him feel any better.
変なことを聞いてごめん。
ごめん。
I felt like I let him down, so I apologized in a rush.
たたりだろうと、この村の何者かの陰謀だろうと、僕は絶対に消えない。消されない。
I won't disappear, and I won't fall victim to it.
消えないよ、
消えないよ、サトコに。あのぬいぐるみを買ってやるまではね。
So I think he's resigned himself. I think he feels like it's inevitable that he's going to be disappearing. Now, does that mean he's planning to kill his aunt and then being gone? But he's talking about the curse taking him. So I'm not sure. I always assumed that he just planned to take out his aunt, just like how Keiichi tried to take out his the uncle. But the way he's talking now feels more like he's more concerned about the actual curse rather than him taking out his aunt. So then that could possibly imply that the aunt was taken out by some random person, but Satoshi was vanished.
もうすぐお給料がもらえることになってる。その日までは絶対に消えない。
I won't go anywhere until then. He chuckled. I knew he was trying to relieve me, but it worked the opposite way. He sounded as though he didn't care what would happen after he bought the teddy bear.
あ、おばさんが帰ってきたからもう切るよ。
うん。
ミオン。
何？
Even though he wanted to hang up the phone because his aunt was coming back, Satoshi-kun took a breath and told me something important.
サトコのこと頼むからね。
Yeah, he's talking like he knows he's done. I should have said yes right away, but I still couldn't forgive Satoko. I just kept quiet.
変なこと頼んで、じゃあ。
It was obvious he was obviously disappointed. What had I done? I wanted to apologize. I wished I could, but it was too late. The dial tone left no doubt. Now that was depressing. Tell me about it. This whole freaking episode's been depressing. And now, Watanagashi is upon us. Now we're gonna see how it all played out. That's really interesting. Okay. So I guess I'll go over my thoughts on a whole thing. I've already said them, but I'll just restate them after we read the tip real quick. Oh, look at the plea ignored. Listen to someone's desperate request, and then we know he's carrying the bat around now too. All right, let's see what this tip is. A torn diary. Somebody whispered to me from behind. They told me I was going to be the victim of the curse this year. So I'm going to disappear soon. There will be nobody left to take care of Satoko. Somebody whispered to me from behind. They told me that I don't have much time, that I won't stay as myself for much longer. So I had to make the best of the days I had left. What could I leave for Satoko? She wanted that huge teddy bear. She wanted a peaceful life in which nobody would bully her. I whispered to the person at my back, bestow your violent nature and formidable strength upon me. I want your peaceful mind, filled with hatred. Okay, so that makes it sound like he invited the curse and maybe, like, did do the whole Keiichi, like, super strength thing. Alright, that's weird. God, it's so frustrating. Okay, we're here and we're going to talk about it. So, what have we learned and gathered from at least the bit of information that we have? He still believes in the curse. He's still having the signals of like the steps behind and feeling watched that Rena pointed out to him could be the curse approaching. And he's like believing it more and more as it gets closer and closer, which frankly, if you kept having those things happen and nobody else seemed to notice it, I'd find it hard to not believe in either. Like, that's just hard when you feel like you're seeing things that nobody else can see. Like what do you trust? And then he also is talking like he has this understanding that he's not going to be able to be around. Like he's asking for like someone to watch over Satoko. He's going to vanish. We saw Keiichi go through something very similar where he was saying like, hey, if I can save Satoko and even if I have to leave and never come back, at least that means that she'll be safe. So it feels like he's got a similar attitude there. The next thing is about that is this idea that he feels like it's inevitable. And then that torn diary, if that was from his diary, the torn page, that implies that he kind of embraced the idea of the curse and was going to lean on like the effects of the curse. So where does that come from? The madness, right? That's so odd. We see the super strength madness too in the first chapter with like the serum that seems to make people go crazy and ripped out of his own throat. But it also has the effect of like making people like taking away their inhibitions, like they act super strong, they don't get tired. It's like a drug. So what if the thing is like a hyper concentrated version of whatever that concoction is what we see in the first chapter, and it makes you go just absolutely crazy and self-harm. But if you got a little bit of it, could that be what we could explain with the like the rush and the energy and the seemingly like the violent tendencies that Keiichi experienced that apparently Satoshi is asking to experience? So if there is a conspiracy side to this, then I'm thinking what we're seeing is the difference between like a purified version of the serum that makes people go so crazy they kill themselves, or a much more minor dose of it that is kind of responsible for like the madness taking over. And if there is a local source for where that could be coming from, like maybe, like I said, like a strange mushroom or something in the forest, that could explain where the stories about the demons come from. That was my whole theory about that. It's like, oh, well, there's like a weird mushroom that's growing. People eat it or get close to it, and the spores get in their lungs, and it makes them more violent and makes them more aggressive and seemingly super strong. That could be depicted as someone just being a demon or having demon blood in them, where they go from being a normal person to a violent maniac for a temporary amount of time, and they don't really have much of an explanation for it. That could explain that demon blood and kind of go through that tracks with all the story, the handed down stories that go through time. And so maybe Keiichi experienced that in chapter 3. Maybe Satoshi is going to be given that, and it's going to motivate him to be the one that takes out his aunt. But then he has to be vanished because they don't want to leave any evidence of it. And so maybe that's what the footsteps behind him are. Like they've marked him not necessarily to be the victim, they marked him to be the perpetrator. And that's why that also could be why they get like random confessions from people. And they remember, like, they say later on that somebody confessed down the line, but they said it was a random person. What if it was Satoshi and it's just to try and keep things on the mysterious side of things, the Sonozakis like used like their influence to suppress the individual's name. And that's why it just says like, oh, just some random guy in a prefecture away confessed to the crime. It's like, no, it was Satoshi. They just hid the fact it was Satoshi so that Satoshi could be vanished. But yeah, very interesting. Okay. I'm excited to see what happens next week. Thank you so much for joining me. Hope you have a great start to your week. I'm looking forward to hearing your comments on this one. I should be able to still read and respond to comments, so leave them there as much as you can. I'm sure I'll give some time and attention to it so I can kind of, see how things are playing out for you. But thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you being here, especially the patrons and members. Your support is so wonderful and overwhelming, and I just want to make sure I do the best I can. I basically gotta thank you because like it's that trust and like the support you've given me that led me invest in something like a standing desk. These are the little things of like, oh, like this improves my ability to make content. I think it genuinely will. It also helps me just feel more engaged and more active at my workstation. I think it's just better and overall better for my health, better for everything. So thank you for your support. It means the world to me. Hopefully I can do more to make better content. I just need to shake out how this new job plays out before I can make sure I can commit to certain things. But my plan is to continue making content at the same pace, and hopefully there's no real hiccups with that. So thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you. And until the next video, watch me up and see me in next. I'll see you there.